Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And before we get into the episode, I do have an announcement. And the announcement is that I have officially joined the Dedicated Tax Pro family for the tax season of 2026. And I am helping to prepare taxes. So if you are in the need to have someone to prepare your taxes, or if you know someone who has this need, please send them my way to be able to help them to prepare their taxes for the 2026 season. I am so excited to be able to help my community with this service. It's so important. We want to make sure that you get every single penny that you earned, right? That you deserve. So if you would like a free estimate, please send me an email at delacruz.dedicatedtaxpros@gmail.com. Again, I will include that email in the show notes and show description so you can get your free estimate. And also, there is a referral bonus. So if you refer a client to me, the firm will send you $50. So that's right, you can even earn $50 per client that you refer to the firm. Again, that is Dedicated Tax Pro. I am so excited to be able to serve you guys with this new service. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Now, enjoy the episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Latina CEOs, the go-to podcast for passionpreneurs Latinas ready to launch and grow their online businesses and own their voice with podcasting. I'm Heidy de la Cruz, writer, two-time award-winning podcaster, and podcast launch coach on a mission to help you build a life of freedom, wealth, and impact by turning your ideas into income. If you're a Latina ready to break generational cycles and create your own table, this show is for you. Let's build our dreams juntas. Con amor, Coach Heidy. Welcome back to another episode of Podcasting for Latina CEOs. I am your host and your coach, Heidy de la Cruz, and I am so excited that you are here with me again for another coaching podcast episode. So today I want to talk to you about what I would do differently if I was starting my podcast today. Which is funny because I started this podcast back in August, and obviously I was not starting from scratch. I was literally starting from the 3 years experience that I already had from my first podcast, The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants, over 3 years ago, right? Like I said. And back then, obviously, I had no idea like all the work that podcasting would take, how to grow it. And I had no idea how deeply it would impact my life and my listeners and even my guests. Like sharing stories of immigrants who came to the US to pursue a better life has been humbling and transformative. And it's just been so much fun as well. And I've learned so much. And that is why I'm so passionate to help other Latinas start their podcasts because, like I mentioned in the other episode, like you literally have a global platform, a global stage. Your audience is listening to you all over the world. And again, that is why I'm so passionate about helping Latinas start their podcasts. So today, what I would do different if I was starting my podcast. So obviously, hindsight is always 2020. So there's always, when you first start this, there's always a lot of errors, growth, trial and errors, and things like that, things that come up. But then you get better prepared, right? So if you want to rebrand or pivot or help others, like coach them through this, then you can help them not make the same mistakes that you did, right? So that is where I'm coming from. Like I want to be the person that I needed when I started to help guide you and not make the same mistakes that I did. So first thing that I would do right away, or actually that I did with this podcast, was start an email list. However, I wrote in my blog that I would start an email list right away on Substack. With this one, I did not start it on Substack. I actually started on MailChimp because I already paid for that. But yes, I highly suggest starting an email list right away on Substack because Substack is free and it's also kind of like a blogging platform. So people don't have to be subscribed to see your content unless, of course, you put it behind a paywall. But if you keep it for free, then people can see your posts without being subscribed, and then you can get subscribers like that and more listeners. So that's what I would do right away is start an email list on Substack. Substack is also a community, like I said. So people on the platform or on the website or in the app, again, they can see your stuff without being subscribed. So you can really utilize the space to share like behind the scenes update, episode insight, reflections, and just connect directly with your audience. Like you can send your audience messages like just for them who are subscribed. And yeah, it's just a really cool newsletter platform that I would definitely suggest that you can to utilize for your podcast. Now, again, I didn't start my email list for this podcast on Substack because I'm already paying for MailChimp for my weekly podcast coaching. So I just included the email list for this. But again, starting from scratch, Substack is the way to go. All right. The second thing that I would do if I was starting my podcast today is actually celebrate my podcast launch. When I first launched The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants, I quietly launched, right? I didn't make a big deal about it, even though it was a big deal. I was unsure, honestly, of how long I was actually going to podcast. Um, I didn't see it as a long-term business or project. Honestly, I was just needing guests, trying to find people that were willing to share their immigration story. So that's what I was focused on in the very beginning. I did not have a long-term vision for this. However, as time went on and I realized one, how much fun I was having, two, how much people were saying that this podcast was needed, then I really started thinking long term and looking at the bigger picture and making it into a business, right? So if I could go back and do a podcast launch party and celebrate that I started this podcast, I would invite friends, family, supporters who believe in the mission from the very beginning, not just about the podcast, but honoring the journey, the stories, and the impact of the podcast. I would do it. I would definitely do that. I finally did do a big celebration earlier this year in April to celebrate the third year of the podcast. At that time, the podcast had only won one award. Now it's two. And it had also reached the ranking of top 5% globally. So it was like that celebration was like celebrating all those milestones in one. And I'm like, I should have done this in the very beginning. But again, I didn't have the long term, that big vision that I do now. And, podcasting isn't just recording and uploading episodes. Like I've talked before about the podcast cycle and how to market and what should be included. Podcasting is literally storytelling, it's community building, it's purpose and action, and it deserves celebration. So if you're thinking about starting your podcast, also think about doing a podcast launch party to celebrate this big milestone because podcasting is big, okay? It's a really, really big deal, and you should make it a really, really, really big deal. The last thing that I would have done is hire a coach. Now that I'm 3 years in, I am part of different communities online, writing community, podcasting community, online business community. Yes, I've been a part of different communities. However, when I started my podcast, I did not have like a podcasting community. And I joined Facebook groups to find other podcasters, to find guests, right? And then also be a guest on podcasts so then I could market my own show, my brand new show. But I was literally learning everything myself. How I researched, Googled how to start a podcast. I got overwhelmed with all the information that was out there. There was nothing out there that really showed me like what is step one, what is step two, what is step three, which again is why I created the voice method to give you that step-by-step process on what to focus on first because I didn't find it. But I would hire a coach. I would have definitely hired a podcast coach. I should have Googled a podcast coach who can help me launch my podcast because having someone who's been there before makes a huge difference. Again, your coach can help you refine your message, develop a launch strategy, avoid common mistakes that new podcasters make. Like they're literally there to walk you through the process and hold your hand, which is why I became a podcast coach because it was like I needed that in the beginning. And I know that others who are in this journey need it too. The investment to hire a podcast coach is worth it. not just for the technical how to, but for the mindset, the clarity, and the confidence that comes with guided support. You need a cheerleader on your team. Like, you need a cheerleader in your corner telling you, you can do this. This is a big deal, because our minds usually tell us, like, who are you? Why are your story's not important? You shouldn't have a podcast. Why? No one's going to listen. No one's going to listen to your podcast. That is what your mind is telling you. But having someone on the outside telling you the opposite gives you that confidence boost and lets you cross the finish line. Because a lot of people will do the plan, will say they're going to start, record an episode, and they never even launch. Like, don't even hit publish. Like, there's people who do all the things behind the scenes, but then when it comes to crossing that finish line to actually launching the podcast, they don't do it. Something holds them back. But when you have someone there guiding you and pushing you forward, it just makes all the difference. And again, this is why I decided to become a podcast coach myself, because I didn't seek out a podcast coach, and I want to be the person that I needed in the beginning when I started. And I also needed someone who looked like me, had similar experiences, and understood why these stories are important to share, which is why now I am a coach for Latinas. Because, as I mentioned before, the data shows that a lot of Latinos, Latinas, our Hispanic community, we are listening to podcasts, but we are not hosting enough. So in my mind, I'm like, what voices are we listening to, if not our own? We need that representation in the podcast industry. We need to share our stories. We need to talk about those taboo topics that we didn't grow up talking about. We need to break those cycles. And podcasting, again, is that global medium that we can use to connect with our audience, share our stories, and just have that community building, that connection with others. Oh, I'm so passionate about this. I don't know if you can tell or not, but yes, like, podcasting has just, oh my gosh, has just changed so much within me, and just the connections that I've made, the networks that my network that I've been able to expand. Podcasting has literally given me the confidence to become a public speaker, because yes, it's just like, I don't even know how to explain it, but literally podcasting has given me that confidence to become a public speaker, to connect with people, to spark up that conversation, that initial conversation. I remember I used to say, I don't speak to people unless I'm spoken to first. So I would not initiate conversations with others. And now, no matter where I go, doctor's office, an appointment, a networking event, out in the supermarket, if I hear someone, or if I'm waiting in line somewhere, or for what anything, if I hear someone with an accent, I immediately spark up a conversation, because it's like, I'm curious about their story and where they're from, right? I mean, obviously, because I have the immigration podcast, but it's like, that's what podcasting has done for me. And I can't wait to see what it does for you. All right, now I'm rambling. These are the things that I would have done differently if I were to start my podcast today. Podcasting has been one of the most rewarding journeys of my life. Again, like, I'm rambling, but it's honestly just something that I'm so, so passionate about, because it has allowed me to amplify immigrant voices, share powerful stories, and build a global community, but also just connect with people, learn about different cultures, learn about history. And I wrote this on Threads like a few weeks ago. I was like, the podcast community is one of the most supportive communities that I have ever been a part of. And I'm so excited and so thrilled to be a part of the podcasting community, because, again, whether it's on Threads, whether it's the Latinas in podcasting community or group, whether it is that I'm going to networking events and I meet another podcaster, like, so supportive, so supportive. So you're not alone in this journey. I am here with you. There's a whole community, and there's a whole just waiting to support your journey in this podcasting journey. Okay. So again, if you're going to start your own podcast, or no, let me rephrase that. When you start your podcast, you are going to start with the voice method. You have one-on-one coaching with me. That's that option. Or go ahead and get the podcast course that you literally can go through in 6 weeks or less. Same name, the Voice Method podcast course. Okay. You're going to start your email list on Substack. You're going to celebrate your launch. It is going to be part of the process of launching your podcast with me. We will plan your podcast launch celebration. And don't be afraid to invest in a coach like me. I am here literally to guide you through the process of launching your podcast, 6 weeks or less. Every episode you create has the power to inspire, educate, and make someone feel seen. And that to me is worth it from the very start. Like I said earlier, we need more representation of Latinas in the podcast industry because we need to share our stories, to share our struggles, to share our triumphs, to be vulnerable, to make someone else feel seen and be like, yo también. Yo pasé por eso también. I went through that too. And yes, oh my gosh. Okay. And with that, that's why podcasting to me is so worth it. It is really, really worth it. So again, start your podcast with the Voice Method in 6 weeks or less. Go to the Stand Store. The link is in the show notes and the show description. So you can start recording, start sharing your story, start connecting, and start making an impact in a global way. All right. Thank you so much for listening, for being here. Happy holidays. I will see you in 2026. That is so crazy. And it's almost 2026, but I will be here 2026. And until next time, much love, con mucho amor, your coach, Heidi.
Thank you for listening to Mommy Podcast.